All right, getting ready for a plasma cutting machine operator interview.
Yeah, talk about a job that's really heating up right now.
We're going deep on this one using RoleCatcher's resources. They've got career guides, interview tips, even some AI tricks up their sleeve. We're going to help you nail this thing.
It's a skill that's in high demand. People are really looking for good operators, so this is a great career to be thinking about.
And this is where I think RoleCatcher's AI is really interesting, because it actually digs into job descriptions.
Oh, yeah.
It finds those kind of hidden, those must-have skills. It's like almost like having a cheat sheet for what employers really want.
Oh, that's cool. So you can really make sure you're tailoring your resume and even your interview answers.
Exactly. So let's jump right into some of these interview questions. First one, super classic. Describe your experience with plasma cutting machines.
Yeah, that's a basic one, but it's your chance to really show you know what you're talking about. So think about the specific machines you've used. Maybe even mention the model number, what kind of materials you've cut, any certifications you have, um, special training, that kind of thing.
What about like follow-up questions there, where they ask like, what types of plasma cutting techniques are you familiar with?
Oh, for sure, yeah. They want to see how deep your knowledge goes. So mention stuff like piercing, gouging, beveling, all those fancy techniques. And don't forget about CNC plasma cutting. That's a big one these days.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
What about this question? This one kind of trips people up sometimes. What are some of the challenges you face while operating these machines?
Yeah, they're not just looking for problems here. They want to know how you solve them.
Right.
So think about a time you had a really difficult cut. Maybe the material was super thick or it was a complicated design. Did you have to adjust the cutting speed or the amperage or the gas flow?
Okay, so it's kind of like walking through your process, kind of like showing them your problem-solving skills a little bit.
Exactly. And be ready for follow-ups. Like, how did you ensure the quality of the cut, even with all those challenges? Or, what did you learn from that experience?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they want to see how you grow from those tough situations. Now, safety, that's a huge deal in this field. So definitely expect a question about safety. Like how do you make sure everyone's safe when you're operating a plasma cutting machine?
Yeah. Safety's got to be number one, right?
Absolutely. So go beyond just like listing the basic rules. Talk about specific safety measures you've used, like lockout procedures, wearing all the right gear, having a fire watch system, and explain why those things are important.
I bet they ask something like, have you ever had to like correct a coworker about a safety violation?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. They want to see how you handle those tough conversations. Can you stand up for safety even when it's awkward?
Yeah. Okay, so let's get a little more technical. What about troubleshooting?
Oh, for sure. They might ask, like, how do you troubleshoot issues during the cutting process?
So this is all about showing off your technical skills, right?
Absolutely. So walk them through your process. Start with checking the gas pressures, then maybe you inspect the consumables or use a diagnostic tool. Show them you have a system, you're not just guessing.
What about if a simple fix doesn't work? Do you think they'd ask about that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They love those curveball questions. So be ready with a story about a time you had to dig deep to find the root cause of a problem. Really walk them through your thought process, how you figured it out.
All right, let's talk machine maintenance. How do you maintain and clean a plasma cutting machine?
Yeah, that sounds basic, but it shows how much you care about the equipment. Don't just say, I clean the torch. Get specific, like what tools do you use, what cleaning agents, how often do you check those consumables, like the electrode and nozzle.
I wonder if they'd ask something like, what are the signs of a worn-out electrode, and how does that mess up the cutting?
Absolutely, they might ask that.
Mm.
It's about showing you're proactive, you're not just waiting for things to break. Explain how a bad electrode affects the cut quality and how you can spot those warning signs early.
All right, let's talk quality control. How do you make sure the finished product meets the standards?
They want to know you're detail-oriented here. Explain your quality checks. Do you use calipers, gauges, visual inspection? Are you comparing your work to the blueprints, making sure everything's spot on?
What about when things go wrong? You think they'd ask, like, have you ever had to reject a finished piece because it wasn't good enough?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they want to know how you handled that. Did you
Yeah.
own up to the mistake? How did you fix it? It's about taking responsibility and making sure those quality standards are always met.
Okay, next up, efficiency. How do you make the plasma cutting process more efficient?
Oh, they love this question. They want to see if you're a thinker, if you're always looking for ways to improve things.
Right.
So have you experimented with different cutting settings to find that sweet spot between speed and quality?
Right, right.
Maybe you reorganize the workspace to make things flow better. They might ask for a specific example of how you improved a process.
Yeah, like give us a time when you made things better and what was the actual result.
Exactly. Numbers are your friend here. Did you save time, reduce waste, or boost productivity? Be specific.
Okay, so we've got to talk calibration. That seems pretty important for accuracy, right?
Hmm.
How do you make sure the plasma cutting machine is calibrated right?
Yeah, calibration is key. Walk them through your process. Do you use a height gauge? A test piece to fine-tune everything. Show them you're meticulous about getting it right.
They might even throw in a, what happens if you work with a machine that's messed up?
Oh, definitely. They want to see that you understand the big picture. You know, a misaligned torch can mean bad cuts, wasted material, even safety issues.
All right, last one for now, programming. Do you think they'd go there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They might ask about that. Something like, how do you make sure the plasma cutting machine is programmed correctly?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different software programs out there.
Focus on the basics. G-code, M-code, setting those parameters, creating toolpaths, even if you haven't used their specific software. Show them you're willing to learn and you have a good grasp of how programming works.
What about modifying a program, like for a special cut?
Oh, that's a good one. They want to see if you can think outside the box. Describe a time you had to tweak the program, how you did it, and what the outcome was.
Okay, one more, I promise. Just popped into my head. How do you make sure the plasma cutting machine is well maintained and serviced?
Okay, this one's about showing you're responsible, you care about the equipment, talk about your preventative maintenance routine inspections, cleaning, lubrication, and how do you spot potential problems before they turn into big headaches? And when do you call in the experts for help?
What if they ask, what are the warning signs that a plasma cutting machine needs immediate attention?
Oh, yeah, good one. They want to know you can recognize those red flags. Weird noises, bad cuts, warning lights flashing. You know, it shows you're proactive about preventing breakdowns and keeping everyone safe. This has been great, but whew, we've covered a lot. There's more to this career than just acing the interview, right? Yeah, we need to look at the bigger picture, you know? Where can the skill actually take you?
Totally, right? Like what kind of career can you build from this? And RoleCatcher's career guide, it's really cool. They break down the stages of a plasma cutting machine operator.
Yeah, you start at the entry level and then you move up. It's interesting to see how things change as you get more experience.
Right, so like at the beginning, what are you doing?
Well, at the entry level, you're really focused on the basics. You know, setting up the machine, getting those work pieces ready, following all those safety procedures.
And this is where I think RoleCatcher's AI can be super helpful.
Oh, totally.
Because it can look at specific job descriptions and tell you, okay, for this employer, they really care about this skill, or they're really worried about safety.
Exactly. It's like, you know, giving you the inside scoop on what they're really looking for. So you can tailor your answers to match what they need. Okay, so then you move up to junior plasma cutting machine operator.
Okay, so what's different there?
Well, you're starting to do more things on your own. You're running the machine, keeping a close eye on the cutting process, and you even get to troubleshoot some of those little problems that pop up.
I see.
Yeah, you're not just an assistant anymore. And the guide mentions that you might even work with senior operators on more complex stuff. It's like having a mentor built right in.
Oh, that's awesome. So then what, you become like the senior operator.
Yep, that's a top dog.
So what's that like?
Oh. Well, you're not just cutting metal anymore. You're kind of running the whole show. You might be training those junior operators, figuring out ways to make things more efficient, and tackling those really tricky problems that come up. You might even work with engineers to improve the cutting processes.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So it sounds like you're really in charge.
You got it. And with RoleCatcher, you can keep learning and growing, you know, to stay on top of things. They help you figure out what skills you need to develop and even suggest courses you can take. Plus, they have tools to help you build your professional network, which is super important for moving up in any career.
Yeah, you got to know the right people.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk money for a second.
Okay.
What's the earning potential like for a plasma cutting machine operator? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of demand out there.
Yeah, the demand is definitely there, and that means the pay is pretty competitive. Of course, it depends on your experience, where you live, what industry you're in, all that stuff. But if you're good at what you do and you keep learning new things, you can make a really good living.
And RoleCatcher can even help with salary negotiations, right?
Absolutely. They have these tools that look at salary data for similar jobs in your area. So when you're talking to a potential employer about salary, you know what you're worth. No more guessing games.
I like that. It gives you a lot of confidence.
Totally. Okay, so let's circle back to those interview questions for a minute. First impressions are so important. RoleCatcher has some great advice on the whole interview process, not just answering those technical questions.
Yeah, I noticed they had tips on body language, making a good first impression, even following up after the interview.
It's all those little things that can make a big difference.
Totally. Right.
It's not just what you say, but how you present yourself. You want to show them you're confident, enthusiastic, and that you're really interested in this particular job. Not just any job, but this job at this company.
Yeah, show them you're passionate about it.
Exactly. And don't forget about RoleCatcher's AI feedback. You can practice your answers and get personalized feedback on how to make them even better. It's like having your own personal interview coach.
It's cool how RoleCatcher gives you that structured approach, that personalized approach to, like, not just finding a job, but building a career.
Yeah, they're not just a job board or a resume builder. They're really invested in your success.
I like that. Okay, so let's step back for a second and look at the big picture. We've talked about how automation is changing things in this field, with robots and AI becoming more common.
Yeah.
So where does that leave the human plasma cutting machine operator? Like, what's their role going to be in the future?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough one, and there's no easy answer, but it's pretty clear that things are changing.
Right.
So instead of thinking about robots replacing humans, it's more about humans learning to work with robots.
So it's a collaboration.
Exactly. And as technology gets more advanced, operators are going to need to level up their skills.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Well, they'll need to get really good at programming, troubleshooting those complex systems, and working smoothly within those automated processes.
Yeah.
It's not about losing jobs. It's about adapting to the new reality.
So their jobs are kind of changing, evolving.
That's it.
Okay, so what can they do to prepare for this?
Well, that's where RoleCatcher comes in again. They're always updating their guides and resources to keep up with the latest trends and technologies.
So you're not just learning how to do the job today, but how to do the job in the future.
Exactly. It's all about staying ahead of the curve, constantly learning and growing your skills.
That's awesome. All right, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of the plasma cutting machine operator. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final kind of thought-provoking question. We talked about how automation's kind of shaking things up. So I want to ask you listening, what does that mean for the plasma cutting machine operator of like tomorrow? Are they becoming more like programmers, technicians, or even like artists, blending those technical skills with some real creative problem solving?
Yeah, that's the question everyone's trying to figure out. And it's one you should be thinking about, too, as you're starting out in this field. The plasma cutting machine operator of the future, they might not just be cutting metal, but like pushing the limits of what's possible with this technology. Think about creating crazy new designs, finding new uses for plasma cutting that we haven't even thought of yet.
It's almost like the role is becoming even more specialized, even more creative.
Exactly. And that's why resources like RoleCatcher are so important. They can help you stay ahead of the game, keep learning new stuff, so you can be ready for whatever comes next.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive into the world of plasma cutting machine operators. And for you listening out there, you got this. Go into that interview with confidence, use everything we talked about today, and don't forget to check out RoleCatcher. They have everything you need to land that job and build an amazing career in this in-demand field. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.